Hey guys, this is going to be an awesome conversation with Chris Larsen, one that jumps around a lot of different things from pro athletics to finding happiness and really following your passion and not monetizing it, but actually going for it on the side. It's really cool conversations that we have here on the Fearless Investor podcast today. So let's get to it right now with Chris Larsen. Hey, welcome into the Fearless Investor Podcast. You're listening to me, Kyle Stanley. And if you have not already, you need to stop right now, whether you're watching or listening to this. Go over to our website, fearlesskyle.com, and download our Airbnb profit calculator. It is the number one tool paired with AirDNA that can help you to be able to understand exactly how to get a deal out of Airbnb and what your numbers look like, how to analyze it. The whole calculator shows you exactly how to use it and how to be able to figure out, are you going to make money or not on this deal? So make sure you go over there again, fearlesskyle.com, and it's right there on the homepage. All you have to do is put down your information right there on the homepage and you've got it. So right now we're going to get to it with Chris Larsen. He is the founder of Next Level Income. He's got a book that he's going to give away to you for free. Listen on this podcast of how you can do that. And I just love conversations like this one today because it's not necessarily always about strategy. Sure, we can show you the how-tos and we can show you step-by-step what to do, but it's also really about understanding your why, understanding why you're doing this, how you're going to find happiness, and also like just understanding what types of skills are really good to develop. And sometimes that takes taking a step back. You know, there's a great story about two men who were given a challenge of tearing down as many trees as possible with an axe. They were both given the same dull axe. And one of them took basically they were given like 60 minutes to chop down as many trees as possible. One took the first 20 minutes to sharpen the axe, while the other one went and just started chopping at trees with a dull axe. And which one do you think ended up winning? It was the one that took the time to actually sharpen their axe and take 20 minutes off the clock for themselves and make their tool really, really good so that they could actually accomplish and win this competition. And that is really what you have to do in business sometimes, is stop, reflect, think, and understand, why am I doing this exactly? So that's why I'm excited to have this conversation today with Chris Larsen. All right, guys, welcome into the show. We've got Chris Larsen coming in from Asheville, North Carolina, and he is the founder of the Next Level Income. We're talking multifamily today and a few other strategies of real estate investing. But Chris, thanks for being on the show, man.
Kyle, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, awesome. Well, hey, as always, I got to start off with my favorite question. What's your most interesting real estate investing story?
Ooh, I got a few of them, but I will say about 7 years ago, we were buying property, and I was working with a good friend of mine, a realtor, and he suggested a new closing attorney. And I was like, oh, we'll save a few bucks, you know. And I walked into this office, and I just got kind of an interesting vibe from the guy. Closing went fine. Unfortunately, he had a relationship with his office assistant. His personal life was a mess. He ended up committing suicide.
Oh my gosh.
And it tied up our property and our cash in escrow. And it turned into this 2-year long ordeal to pull it out. So obviously, very serious when it comes to, you know, somebody like that. But I guess my point is, if you're in this business, it's a relationship business. Do business with people you've known for a while and that can trust. And, you know, if you try to cut corners, it can come back to bite you in a big way sometimes.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I think we've all probably kind of been there. We go, especially in real estate, you know, you go with the cheaper contractor and suddenly before you know it, he's ghosting you. And so there's a lot of things when it comes to this, but I mean, shoot, that's not something that you can really plan on. So, crazy though. Well, hey, let's kind of talk your story though, and jump into this. You've got a really interesting one. You were almost a professional athlete, and now investing in multifamily real estate. But give us kind of the journey from, you know, being a kid and, you know, getting into what, you know, you were basically like Tour de France is like where you were headed, and it's like what led you to that, and then what eventually led you into real estate. Let's kind of hear that evolution.
Yeah, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite Tour de France level, but definitely as a cyclist, you always dream about that. And
Right.
I actually did get to train with Lance Armstrong.
Oh, that's awesome.
Got to spend time at the Olympic Training Center. I was state champion as a junior, and I really remember going back as far as I can, Kyle. The first time I could ride my bike out of the neighborhood, I just remember this sense of freedom that I
Okay.
got. And I always had this love for cycling. I played baseball growing up, but cycling was the first thing that I was like really, really good at.
Nice.
Um, I poured my heart and soul into it. I was a decent student. I ended up going to Virginia Tech for engineering, studied biomedical engineering, but my goal was to be a professional cyclist. And that really, if you look back at the habits that I developed over a period of time, I think, if I'm going to hire somebody, I always love interviewing and hiring people that were elite athletes, because you have to be very disciplined,
Right.
and you learn that there's a payoff in the distance. Not, hey, give it to me now, instant
Right.
gratification. It's delayed gratification, right? So I learned a lot through that. Kind of, I hope this doesn't be the theme for the rest of the show, but the reason I ended up quitting cycling was about a year before I quit, my best friend passed away. He was
Mm.
my training partner. He was my roommate.
Yeah.
And I poured my heart and soul into cycling that year. I was doing phenomenal. I was winning all kinds of races, but I really figured out that I wasn't truly happy, and I
Mm.
knew that I was meant for more. And it was a very tumultuous time in cycling, because you had a lot of drug scandals going on. I had friends going to Europe and coming back and telling me about these stories. And what I really wanted was the freedom. I wanted the freedom to race my bike. I didn't want to be poor. And after I quit, I still had that desire to be free. And I wanted to make sure I honored the life of my best friend who couldn't live his anymore.
Yeah.
And I thought that what better way than be my best self? And that's what really drove me towards financial independence. I was in the stock market, but ultimately I found that real estate was the best fit for me to develop a stream of passive income and ultimately develop the ability to control the value of my portfolio.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you and I have a similar story. It was my dad's passing that made me kind of like have to sit and really think like, am I doing what I really meant to do? So I relate to you on that level. And I actually have a very specific question about what you said there about passion. You said you weren't truly happy at the moment training in cycling, but it sounded like what you kind of hinted at there is you wanted to be able to still keep that as a passion and do it because you wanted to, not because you felt like you had to. Is that what I gathered from what you said?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think really, the being a cyclist it's not going to make you a ton of money.
Right.
If you're even a super high level cyclist. So, I wanted the ability to do that if I wanted to do it. But I wanted to have some means as well.
I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and it was, really about their time out breaking off and building a business. And, she's telling me how she's passionate about this, and that. And I really like challenge her. I was like, you can be passionate about something, but are you skilled in those things? And because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if you're passionate about something, you try to turn your passion into something that's monetized, you might end up hating it because you don't have the skill set that really takes to be happy within that thing. And so I really find that interesting how you just mentioned that it was something that was becoming more of like an obligation and you wanted to keep it as a passion. And so like fast forward to today, have you been able to continue cycling as a passion? Is it something that you still find a lot of joy in?
Man, that's you just nailed it, Kyle. You nailed it. So, yeah, I think what you said is terrific. I love the expression "do what you're good at, not what you love."
Right.
And
Yeah.
if you find a way to do what you're good at and do what you love, either in your free time or eventually blend it, I think that's a terrific strategy. I think you have
Yep.
to really look hard in the mirror and figure that out. But be careful if you're starting out, not to put one before the other.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good advice. If you've ever gone for a bike ride and it's raining and 40 or less degrees out, um, you know how miserable that can be. Imagine doing that for 5 hours, and then
Yeah.
imagining that you have to do that if you want to be on the same level. And that was my life, but I loved it. I loved riding my bike. However, today, like, hey, we should go for a ride, and I'm like, that's too cold, it's too wet. I don't have to do it, so I'm not going
Right.
to do it.
Yeah.
I do it to stay healthy. I do it to enjoy myself, and I stopped racing because I want to enjoy the experience of riding a
Yeah.
bike. And you're exactly right. At some point, if you're obligated to do what you love, it can take the joy out of it. And you have to be very careful when you
Yeah.
have those things in your life that you keep them sacred.
Yeah, and it's kind of probably the same thing for you in multifamily. I tell people all the time, like, I'm not passionate about Airbnb. I didn't like grow up being like, hey, I want to be in the hospitality industry. I
Right.
I grew up being like, no, I want to be a sports anchor. I want to be like the ESPN guy. I want to be the play-by-play guy for the Chicago Cubs. And then you get into that industry and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much negativity, there's so much competition. You're making little to no money until like you literally get to the top, and then suddenly you hate what you were now passionate about. And so I had to really step back. So anyway, before we go too deep into that, there is something that like I think was really good, and what I totally agreed with is former athletes, especially high level athletes, do really well in this industry because of discipline and understanding that it's not a carrot that you're just like able to get. It's like, hey, this is down the road and you're going to really have to build up something in order to get there. It's not a built overnight type of deal. I think I've said that before. I love surrounding myself with former athletes because they have that mindset. Why do you think, just kind of going a little deeper into that, why do you think that athletes do so well, not even necessarily in real estate, but in other investments as well?
Yeah, I think, and I spent 15 years in medical device sales. Same thing. I think they do very well there.
Yeah.
I think that it comes from a few different things. One, confidence. So I think that you have to be confident that the path you choose, you're going to get there. And any real athlete knows that you're going to get your butt kicked way more times than you're going to be kicking somebody else's butt,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, especially in a sport like cycling, you're going to lose 90+% of the time.
Yeah.
There's some athletes, like Michael Phelps, he probably has a very high, percentage to do that. But at the same time, when you're starting out, I mean, he got beat a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
don't let somebody's success fool you. When you talk to, if I'm trying to remember who the quote, but I'm successful because I failed a lot.
Yep.
And that's like, you may remember who the quote is. I could look it up real quick, but
Yeah, no, I know
that's,
the John
I think
Maxwell
it might have been
failing
Tyson,
forward. Yeah.
but yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but that is really important. Another, like, a Tyson quote, like, everybody has a plan until they're punched in the face. You
Yeah.
can have the best training plan, you can have the best schedule, and then, there's bad weather, or your player gets hurt. Somebody gets sick, or you get sick and you have to take time off. How do you adjust? How do you adapt? How do you keep the long-term vision? And these are all
Mhm.
skills that you develop through years and years of practice. Discipline is the third thing. So, confidence, the ability to have a plan and adjust, and then discipline. It's not, are you doing the right things?
Right.
It's, are you building the habit of doing those things repeatedly? Getting better, 1% better. So those are probably my top three things about, why I like athletes.
Yeah.
And
I,
then I think other people gravitate to that as well.
yeah. I think one of the things that I really like about what you said, the plan, and there's so many people that feel like their plan has to be perfect before they ever and just go take action. But
Yeah.
that's not what athletes are all about. That's not what we're all about in real estate. And that's what people need to bring to the mindset is, hey, listen, I'm going to have a plan, and it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be, at least in my mind, perfect for me right now. And I just got to go do it and see if I need to adjust it, see if I need to change it. So many different things, right? Whether you're flipping or wholesaling, or you're in Airbnb, or you're doing multifamily, you might think, hey, this is the zip code. And then you go in and you get in that zip code and you're like, well, maybe it's not this one, and you adjust. But the fact that you went and actually tried it first and tested it out is what helped you to be able to make those mistakes and fail forward, like you said. So I love that you pointed that part out. So let's get a little bit more into your real estate story now. So you mentioned, why you made that transition in your life with your friend passing away, but what was it about real estate that drew you?
Yeah, and if your audience is listening, check it out. I'll give you a free copy of my book at our website,
Awesome.
nextlevelincome.com. Just click
Thank
on
you.
the book link. You can download it, or you can put your address in. I'll send you a copy as well.
Perfect.
So if any of this is resonating with you, feel free to grab that. But yeah, I started at 21, bought my first property, Kyle. Started in single family, And, my goal was to have enough properties to have $10,000 a month coming in after I paid off the properties. And I set off in finding a career. For me, it was medical device, to make enough money so that I could invest and then pay those properties off.
Great.
And after doing that for 15 years, I looked at my performance, and what started off as 30% returns dropped into single digits, and that was before tax. So anybody
Mm,
out there that's a high income earner that is paying taxes, if you're making a couple hundred, few $100,000 a year, you're paying 30+% tax. You're making 7% on an investment, you're taking home probably 4%. You can do a lot better than 4%
yeah.
in the real estate game. So having two kids at the time, working sometimes 80 hours a week on a job where I was on call. I worked an average of 6 days a week for 10 years. I wanted something that was passive, that had good returns. And when I started to look into the space, I found that multifamily, it was passive. It had terrific demographics, which is what pulled me in the direction of the medical device space, which is why I moved to the Southeast. A lot of people assume I invest in the Southeast because I live here. I live here, I invest here. That's why I moved
That's
down
good.
here.
That's good.
So between the demographic trends, between the passive ability, between the cash flow and the ability to control appreciation. And what I mean by that, Kyle, is if you buy a single family house, that's called a hope and pray. You're
Mm-hmm.
hoping and praying it goes up in value. If you buy a commercial building, you can actually turn the knobs and increase the income and decrease the expenses. And what happens is that increases what's called the NOI, the net operating income, the difference between income and expenses. And that is what the property is valued on. So
Yeah.
I loved all those aspects. Was an investor first. After doing that for a few years, ultimately syndicating deals with my partner. And that launched this about 5 years ago.
Yeah, Chris, apartments are so exciting, and that was really like what grabbed my attention when I was starting to get into real estate. But I also realized, like, even though apartments are awesome, the prices of apartments are not awesome. So,
Oh, yeah.
what were you using your own cash, or how are you suggesting people get started in apartments if they're just getting started into real estate as well?
Yeah, so I think, taking a step back, I think as we talked about earlier, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to look in the mirror and decide, what you're good at. You also have to decide, what do you like to do? So for some people, I have surgeons that invest with us. They also have properties that they fix up themselves. They enjoy working with their hands. They enjoy having it off where they're painting and they're not having to worry about, taking care of patients. That's enjoyable to them. For me, I grew up with the stepfather that was a contractor. I shovel shingles. I got to lay hardwood floor. I get to dig, ditches and foundations. I've had enough of that. So I would rather sit back and look at spreadsheets and manage a higher level. If you say, hey, I'm interested in being a more active investor, and maybe you want to find a source of your own capital or a small group of capital where you can buy a building that you can actively manage. Maybe that's a 4-unit building, maybe it's a 24-unit building.
Mm-hmm.
The strategy that we have, Kyle, we're buying institutional level properties. So you mentioned you don't like the price of apartment buildings. We're buying properties, typically anywhere from 20 to $60 million. I'm not doing that with just my own capital. We're pooling capital through that syndication model that we talked about, and we're investing alongside our investors as well. So you can move anywhere in that spectrum. It's definitely going to be harder to jump into a $50 million apartment building versus a $500,000 or a $5 million apartment building, just because there are different levels of debt that goes into that. There's different levels of qualification that go into that, and you can't get the financing when it comes to some of those unless you have the experience. Also, like a seller's not going to talk to you if you say, hey, my name is Chris. I think it's really cool to invest in apartments and I'd like to buy this 300-unit apartment complex from you. They're going to say, how many deals have you done? Where are you getting your money? Who are your partners?
Right.
They're going to want to know all that stuff as well, because somebody that's selling a $50 million apartment building, they don't want somebody that's kicking the tires and isn't going to be able to deliver in 3 months down the road.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. So does that mean then if I'm brand new, do I need to start out with more of the single family stuff? Do I need to start out with maybe a duplex, a fourplex, and kind of build my way up? Or what would be that strategy?
Excellent question. So again, going back to the first thing, if you want to be active, I think that's a great way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The other way, this when I got started in the medical device space, it was basically like, hey, you can go build your own sales track record, and then go in, then jump into this space, or you can basically apprentice, work for somebody and learn how to do it. I think those are the two ways. You can start
Yeah.
small and build up yourself, or you can go work with somebody and say, I'd like to start out, maybe work for you.
Yeah.
Or if you have a group of investors, say maybe you can come in as a partner, as a passive partner. And if you do it that way, it's like free education, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I tell investors that want to learn, I say, well, Kyle, if you invest with us, you're a partner. You get access to all the information. You can ask me questions anytime, learn how we go through this process, learn about our strategy. So, you could start buying small deals yourself. You could invest with a large syndicator, and then you could learn on both hands. And there's plenty of people out there that are willing to teach you. We actually have a summit coming up at the end of January here. It's called the Multifamily Investor Nation Summit,
Nice.
MFIN Summit. If you search for us online, you can register. We have dozens and dozens of experts, and you get $100 off if you use the code next level, all caps.
Perfect. Repeat that one more time. We'll throw this into the show notes too, but what was that? The website?
Yeah, so it's going to be mfinsummit.com, mfinsummit.com, and you can use the code next level, all caps.
Perfect. And is that one word or two?
One word, next
Okay.
level, one word, all
Cool.
caps.
Cool. One thing you said there, I just think is so good is doing it with someone. There's this idea of not only is it free education, but it's also building your resume. Like maybe you're going in and you're doing the deal for free with a mentor, but you're doing the deal. And so for that reason, then you
Absolutely.
do go to that guy who's trying to sell his apartment complex for $50 million, or maybe give you a few $1 million. Hey, what's your experience? And it's not going to be, hey, I went and did like a duplex and now I'm trying to get a 130 unit apartment complex. It's hey, I've done these deals with these partners and we're going to do it again. And so that's what I love
Exactly.
about that. And that really is, like, we talk about it all the time. You have to, if you want to go fast, you do this alone. If you want to go far, you do this with others.
Love
And
it.
I just think so much that if you're getting into real estate, I don't care if it's going to be paying for a course or partnering with someone who's doing it really well, or find a way to add value to a mentor. You have to have that mindset that you're going to be doing it with other people. So
Yeah.
when you made that transition, were you doing that with other people, or had you just built up so much knowledge over 15 years of real estate that you were able to make that transition?
Oh no, I practice what I preach, Kyle.
Okay,
So my partner and I started with the group that we invested with.
cool.
So they had basically an apprenticeship training program, and it was terrific. So we had kind of like a year runway where we built our team out, we built plan out, and then we worked with them. We partnered with them on the first deal, brought them in as advisors, and it was great because we took all their knowledge, all their expertise, didn't have to make our own mistakes. We got to learn from their mistakes, and then we got to blend that with our experience and our knowledge and our own unique style and brand that we had, and really the best of both worlds. So I mean that's my favorite way to do it. And I love what you say. Build your team out, find somebody that you can model and mentor. And then you had a little nugget in there. I need to underline that and repeat it. If you want to work with somebody, discover how you can bring value to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to learn from somebody, say, hey, Chris, what are you looking for your team? And see if you can have it or bring that to them.
Yeah, that's 100% easiest way to be able to build a business and build a reputation is just by adding values to others. And that is just something I don't think that people talk about enough. It's always the strategy, right? But it's never talking about just the fact of like getting in there with high level people and finding a way to add value to them. That's literally why I started this podcast. So,
I love it.
Chris, we're kind of getting to the end here, but I want to just ask one quick question here. If I'm looking to get started, obviously you're giving away your book for free. That is awesome. We're going to have that link in the show notes. But what is like maybe one or two tips that we haven't already talked about that would be like a first or second step that someone can take to really get their feet wet in this?
Yeah. Oh man, we've so much, so just to underscore, find a mentor, find a group.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think, like the summit that I brought up there, you can go and you can learn. Also be honest with yourself. So I think the first step I would do is look in the mirror, do an assessment of what you're good at and what you like, and be honest and be true. Because if you do something that you're good at and you focus on what you enjoy, that's going to give you that time. The second thing that we haven't really talked about, although we touched on it when we were talking about the athletes, is develop a plan. So all the individuals that I coach, that I mentor, the first thing we do is we put together a 3-year vision. And I have one of my clients that I'm coaching. I'm helping this person figure out like what their next step is, and they're struggling a little bit, and they had a really hard time kind of articulating what their vision was. And what I said was, get clear in your vision. When you know where you go, the path is going to make itself known. So figure that out. Look in the mirror, do an assessment, put your vision in motion, and then find right resources. Find the who's, the WHO apostrophe S. Find the who's that can help you get there. If you focus on the who and the how, that is going to give you the ultimate success.
Have you ever heard of the 7 layers of why?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, just
was it Graziosi that he kind of goes through that? He went, well, that's who I learned it from, was Graziosi.
Yeah. I mean,
he talks about, why this.
Exactly. You want to get started in multifamily. Why? And because I want more freedom. Why do you want more freedom? Because I want to spend more time with the family. Why do you want to spend more time with your family? And you just literally, when you go 7 layers deep, you get really clear on like, here's what this is going to do for me. And especially I've got friends right now that are getting started in real estate. They've got, an infant and they got a wife, and, they're going to have to be doing work after work. And if the wife understands why, then she's going to be a lot more on board with the what, because the what in real estate, it's a lot of work, and it's finding the who's, and it's connecting with people, and it's all that stuff. So,
Kyle, you got some, I mean, you're resonating on several different levels. I'm kind of tingling a little bit when you talk about that. And what I would add is remember that why, because when you get down the road and, you got your why, you got more time with the family, but now you're focused on the what. Oh, what is my net worth? Can I add another 0 to it? You always got to go back to that why.
Exactly.
You always got to go back to the why. It'll keep you on track.
Yep. 100%. Well, Chris, what are ways that our audience can get connected with you?
Yeah, we try to keep it easy. Next Level Income, nextlevelincome.com.
Perfect.
Next Level Income Show is our podcast. Next Level Income is our book that you can get for free, as we talked about earlier. And you can also reach me at chris@nextlevelincome.com.
Perfect. And we'll have all that in the show notes. But Chris, thanks so much for bringing so much value to our audience today, helping them to conquer the world of investing. We appreciate you being on, man.
Kyle, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
All right, check out the show notes for this one, fearlesskyle.com/Chris Larsen. That's where you're going to be able to go get that book for free, absolutely free. Why not? Go get it. And hopefully you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. I even continued the conversation with Chris for another 20 minutes after that, and just a really good guy to connect with there and to have a similar mindset with. I love talking about mindset, challenging mindsets, but it's also cool every once in a while that you have someone that's been in similar positions as you, just like Chris has been with me. And I just hope that you'll continue to pour into, or allow him to pour into you, and go check out his podcast as well. So again, it's Next Level Income. You can pretty much just Google that, or Google Chris Larsen, and also check out our show notes, and you'll find a bunch of stuff on him. That's going to be it here today for the Fearless Investor podcast. Thanks for allowing us to help you to conquer the world of investing. We'll see you next time.